What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a few minutes since I spoke with you all. I really apologize for missing last month's report. Things got really busy for me on the tournament scene. I was in a position where I really had to focus on those tournaments back east, and I kind of put everything else on the back burner. Hopefully we've got things kind of squared away now. Just came off a good event at St. Clair and have some time now. I've got basically the rest of July here back in Arizona, which is beautiful, and got one tournament back east in August, and then again home again all of September. So looking forward to getting back in touch with the lakes here in Arizona because they've been fishing great this summer. They've been fishing good all year, and this report, some of our reports that I give on this channel, they're firsthand experience. Hey, I've been on the water a bunch this month. This is what I've been seeing. Some months when I'm fishing back east, it's historical experience for me, and then some stuff and some nuggets that my friends that fish around here, good fishermen, give me, and I convey it to you guys. So this week's going to be a little bit of that sprinkled in with just my own 2 cents on what I would be doing this time of year. I could be totally off. I might tell you, don't throw a Carolina rig, and you go out there and catch 20 pounds on a Carolina rig the next day. That's how fishing goes. But this is just, my personal history here in Arizona fishing this time of year, what I've seen, what to look for, and again, a couple nuggets from my buddies that have been spending a lot of time on the water. And we'll start by saying it's been a good month. It sure sounds like June fished great. Some of our lakes were absolutely on fire for big fish, especially Saguaro, but the other lakes have been good as well. We've still got full water in most of our bodies of water, and that's a big deal. We've got high water levels. And this heat, it's 115 degrees. I'm sweating my tail off in the garage right now. But it's not a bad thing. This is a good time of year. It's a really stable, consistent time of year to go out and pattern fish and catch them. A lot of times you can catch bass off of a spot one day and come back a week later and catch them off that same spot again this time of year, which isn't really common through a lot of the year. They move a lot more in the spring and fall. This time of year they get settled in their summertime holes and they stay there. There are certain things that are going to affect the bite, and when we get into the monsoons, that's really, really going to be a big deal. When you start getting monsoon season, it definitely shakes things up. You go from really consistent fishing to hit or miss fishing, but we're not there yet. We haven't had a monsoon yet, even though I would love one right now to cool things off. Still super, super hot, and that's okay for the fishing. The fish, they've gotten off of every single type of spawn, and they're in areas right now where they have food, and a lot of times they like current this time of year. So again, I'm going to tell you, the backs of the pockets is not necessarily the place to be. Could you go back into a pocket on Roosevelt Lake and catch a bass? Yeah, 100%. But that point leading into the pocket that's out on the main lake is going to have 5 times more fish on it because it's closer to the current. Everything wants to be out there on the main lake where the water's a little bit cooler, there's more current, bass and bait fish included. And the reason the bass are there is because the bait fish are there. So start your search on stuff that touches the main lake, whether it's a main lake, just a main lake shoreline, a main lake point, a main lake hump, a main lake drop off like a ledge. Start your search on the main lake, no matter what lake you're on. Could be Bartlett, Roosevelt, Pleasant. Now, there are exceptions. We've got unique situations on our lakes. A lot of our lakes that have rivers, cooler water gets dumped out from the lakes above, and there in turn, you've got cooler water in some of the rivers when they're actually dumping current out of the dam and moving water. That's a good situation to be in, and that's something that's worth looking at. But most of the lakes that don't have that scenario, like a Pleasant, like a Roosevelt. Roosevelt, you don't have cold water coming in. There's no big dammed lake up above it. Start on the main lake. Bartlett's the same way. Now Canyon, Saguaro, Apache, they're part of the Salt River chain. They got cold water coming out of the dam. It's worth looking at for sure. It's hit or miss fishing, but it's worth looking at where that water comes out and fishing those river ends. But overall, main lake is where I'm spending a lot of my time. And this time of year, the fish really, really, really like to stack up in schools. And that's what I love about fishing in the summertime. The fish get so schooled up, and you can pull up to the right spot. And if you are lucky, you can catch a bunch of fish just making the same repeated cast over and over again. Um, that's what really June, July, August they're famous for countrywide, but it definitely happens here in Arizona. The one thing I'll say is every year is different. Like last year when we had, lakes like Roosevelt, Bartlett, Pleasant that were, not super, super high. When those lakes weren't so high, those fish would get really balled up and they didn't have all kinds of brush and stuff to spread them out and disperse them. Now you take a lake like Roosevelt, for instance, the lake has so much water in it and so much brush that those fish spread out, and it's harder to find schools of fish. Those schools of fish want to move around more. There's just a lot more places for them to live. It's not like when you don't have a bunch of brush in the water. If you have a good rock pile, that's the cover, and you're going to have a bunch of fish congregate on that cover. Now you take a situation like this where there's brush everywhere. They still want to get on that point. They still want to get on that main lake hump because it does have potentially current coming through. It does have bait. You're close to deep water. But all they have to do, in any situation is kick their tail 10 times and they're onto another area with a bunch of brush. There's so many places to hide. So I'm going to be out there looking for schools, but you have more options. And what this has done too, this high water has kept some of the fish shallower. Again, not maybe so much back in the pockets and creeks, but closer to the main lake, they are staying. There are fish that are still living in the trees because they're still covering the water, and there's still some bait that's living up there. So like the topwater bite has been really prolonged. This is a Berkeley cane walker right here. It's an awesome walking topwater bait. That chrome color is a snaky good color here in Arizona. It's a little nugget I figured I'd include in this video. But the topwater deal is always good in the summertime, first thing in the morning. What's neat about right now is it's actually lasting a lot longer. As long as you can actually go out there and physically stand the heat yourself, they'll eat a topwater. There was a topwater only tournament up at Roosevelt a couple weeks ago, and the guys caught tons of fish. They caught them all day. The topwater bite is lasting. Now, I don't know about the other lakes. I would assume, no matter what, it's going to be best at first light, and then you're going to get a little glimpse of it right at dusk again. But really, don't be afraid to throw it all day, especially if you see fish popping on bait. You see fish busting the surface periodically when you're out there. If you love topwater fishing, it's a great time to do it right now. One of the best times of year. That cane walker right there, it's kind of a neat bait because it's not just a regular walking bait. It's got like a concave face. It's called a pencil popper. And it's going to spit water as it walks. So it creates a lot of commotion. You can get out on the water this time of year when you have like wakeboard boats and maybe even some wind chop, and that thing can still get their attention, call them up and catch them. So it's a cool bait. Topwater all day. Don't sleep on it. But really the staple summertime stuff, the staple July stuff that I wanted to talk about, the deep crankbait and the worm. This right here is the dredger. This is a 25.5 from Berkeley. It's a deep crankbait. No better way to catch a giant bass in the summertime than a big crankbait. You're going to throw a crankbait size-wise. It's going to depend on how deep you're fishing. You always want to be hitting bottom out here. So, if you're fishing in 15 feet of water, like that 17.5 dredger is great. It's going to run 16, 17 feet. It's going to be getting the bottom pretty easily. Pick a bait that's going to be dredging the bottom. And you don't need to go crazy on color. The lakes are still fairly clear right now, so just natural colors work really well. But if you get into a situation where the water gets dirty, chartreuse and blue, even fire tiger, as crazy as that sounds, can be a great crankbait color in the summertime when the water gets dirtied up after the monsoons start hitting. We're not there yet. The water's still clear. Throw the shad colors. If you're out on a lake like Pleasant where it's really, really clear, they're like translucent colors, stuff that's it's got some clearness to it that you can almost see through. Those are the crankbaits that are going to be getting bit in that water situation. But I love throwing a crankbait this time of year. You get that, you find a school of fish, you can get them fired up and you catch them every cast on crankbaits. and catch some big ones too. I've got a video from Roosevelt last summer on the channel. You can go back. I don't know. I haven't done that many videos. I think I've done 20 or 21. So go back. I don't know. Maybe it was probably the 5th or 6th video I posted. You can watch us catching them on deep crankbaits at Roosevelt. And I'll try to get out and do another one here pretty soon. But it's the best. It's my favorite way to catch them this time of year, deep crankbait. Moving on from that, kind of an old school bait is the 10-inch power worm from Berkeley. 10-inch worms, I don't throw them much when the water's cold, but when the water gets warm, I love throwing a 10-inch worm. If you will throw it on a Texas rig with a 3/8 ounce weight, that's pretty much the only setup you're going to need, like a 5/0 hook. And I mean, 10-inch worm sounds like a big bait, but it's really not. You can catch a 8-pounder on it and throw it back out there the next cast and catch an 8-incher. You know, it catches them. The way it moves in the water, it looks like a big bait fish swimming. And so many of these fish in these lakes key on gizzard shad these days. And I mean, just a big slithery worm in the water, in my opinion, looks like a big bait fish, as crazy as that sounds. And it flat out gets bit. And the beautiful thing about a Texas rigged big worm like this, 10-inch worm, is you get into a situation like up at Roosevelt, or even trying to fish trees at Bartlett, grass at Saguaro. You know, it comes through that stuff really, really well. A weedless Texas rig comes through that cover so well. So you don't have to worry about hanging up consistently. You're going to be able to fish efficiently and, you know, trigger big bites. I throw it, like I said, on a 3/8 ounce weight. I throw it on like a 7.6 medium heavy or like a 7.3 heavy action rod with a high speed reel and like 15-pound trilene fluorocarbon. So that's the setup. You know, drop shot. I don't have any drop shots here, but you know I'm not going to go a whole fishing report without mentioning the drop shot. It's the way to catch them. And when you start getting on bodies of water that are really, really pressured and fishing gets tough, don't be afraid to pull that thing out. It always works. Never lets you down fishing here in Central Arizona. And really, those are going to be like you don't have to go crazy with techniques. A lot of stuff works right now. You know, if you are fishing somewhere down like the Colorado River, fishing Martinez, fishing Havasu, it's frog fishing season. You can get up in those rivers where the water's cooler, and it's one of the best times of year to throw a frog. Catch them flipping, you know, getting back into way back into the shade and stuff like that. But again, I love having a little bit of current. You know, get on that main river, get near the main river, at least where there's some secondary current. Current is king when the water is hot like it is right now. And, you know, we're lucky in Arizona. Our lakes are deep and clear. We never see that 90-degree water. There's parts of the country that are already getting 90-degree water where the lakes are shallower and dirtier. But here, you know, the fishing is good all summer, all fall. We're just getting into the dog days of summer. I do want to touch on night fishing a little bit because a lot of you guys do fish at night. I did it a ton before having kids. And I'm looking forward to my night fishing days starting to come back. But one little thing, I've talked about this on my Instagram page in the past. I've given this away, but one cool little deal. If you like to night fish, this color right here from Berkeley, Motor Oil Red Flake. This glows under a black light. So I can't personally fish without a black light at night. I love a black light on the side of the boat to light up my line and see what my line's doing. You know, you make a cast, and if you don't know, you know, if you can't see your line, you don't know when it's on the bottom, you don't see those light bites where your line jumps or maybe stops or does something weird, swims off to the side. Using a black light allows you to do that. But what's cool about that bait right there in that color is you can actually see your bait as you cast. So in my opinion, it helps you make a little bit more of an accurate cast. You still can't see the bank. You know what I mean? It's not like it's a night and day difference. No pun intended there. But you know where your bait's at. You know what your bait's doing. And I'm a big time black light guy. So I love to fish at night. And I keep it really simple when you're fishing after dark this time of year. A lot of times I've got just a few rods on the deck. Before dark, I'll throw whatever. I'll throw that Topwater, whatever. But there's a firework right there. Spoiler alert, it's 4th of July. But after dark, I put a crankbait on. It could be a deep crankbait. It could be a medium crankbait. Depends on the depth that I'm at. and I put a 10-inch worm on, that motor oil power worm, and I put a drop shot on. And really, those three things are all you need. You know, if I'm out on flats or, you know, casting to specific structure, I like the drop shot. If I'm on like steep walls, I like to just kind of pitch that big worm and let it free fall down those walls. And then if I'm, you know, trying to cover water, that crankbait works really well. But keep it simple, not too many baits, and you know, I'll save you some time. Don't If you want a night fish, don't go to Roosevelt. For whatever reason, the last couple years, it's been very hard to catch fish after dark at Roosevelt. You can catch them great up until the sun goes down. And some of the best fishermen I know that fish Roosevelt all the time have been belly aching over the last couple years about how tough it is to catch them after dark at Roosevelt. If you want to fish in the dark, go to Bartlett, Pleasant, Canyon, Saguaro, Apache. Save your time. Don't do it at Roosevelt. If you want to go during the day, it's a great place to go. But no need to be at Roosevelt catching them or trying to catch them in the dark right now, because it's going to be a long night and you might have a long drive home. But really, that's it. Like I said, I'm going to try to get out on the water here. I'm going camping here for a couple days. And then after that, I'm going to run over to ICAST in Orlando. And then I've got the second half of July to spend time on the water here in Arizona. Enjoy these local lakes that I love so much. Hopefully see some of you out there. And I am starting to book a few more trips for the fall. So like I said, I've got a lot of dates in September. I've got a few in August, and then a bunch like November, December, stuff like that. So if you want to get out and just learn a lake better, learn a technique, you know, just go catch some fish and have fun. Maybe learn electronics. I do a lot of like live scope trips and just electronics trips, stuff like that. Drop me a line. You can send me an email at azangler@gmail.com. It's azangler@gmail.com. Also, feel free to drop me a message on Instagram or Facebook, something like that. But email works really good for booking those trips. And really, other than that, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Sorry for the delay between the fishing reports and the other videos, but, you know, it's just been a very, very busy couple months, and I need to make this more of a priority. I'm definitely not, I got to take a little bit of blame for that too. I got to make this more of a priority because I appreciate you guys all watching the videos, sharing them with your friends. If you don't mind, you know, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you'd like to see. And we will be back at you guys really soon. Thanks. Have a good one.